Good afternoon, everybody. This is Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte. And today I'm here with Carl Cervantes. Carl, would you mind introducing yourself to everyone?
Hello, I'm Carl Cervantes. I'm a Sagittarius, if that matters.
Yeah, would it,
um,
man?
what else? I don't know. I like spaghetti. I'm a zine maker. I make zines. I'm in grad school right now. I
Mm.
worked in the entertainment industry for a few years and with vulnerable communities. I actually also have a podcast. It's called You're All Right, but it's just kind of a hobby for me. It's just just to do something during this quarantine.
Yeah, go check that out, guys. You're All Right. It's a fun podcast to listen to. Not because I was there too, but it's a nice podcast if you want to learn more about other stuff that goes through your minds and heads and what else you could talk about in this world.
Yeah.
So in today's episode, I am interviewing a group of people to talk about the LGBTQIA community. And today here with Carl is an ally of the community. And, I just want to know and ask Carl, or Carl, what you know, or how do you see the LGBTQIA community? How do you find like this community in this world today? How do you see them? How do you shed a light on these issues if they have issues to deal with?
All right. Uh, the thing is, I like it's so absurd that a lot of people have to segregate individuals based on things that make us special as human beings, based on things that based on variations of humanity.
Yeah,
These are just variations of humanity. So it's absurd to me that people segregate and have to push aside variations that don't coincide with what they think should humans should be. And I think that it's just humanity. It's just we're just being human. It's just variations of being human. And understanding the struggles that come along with it is understanding the struggle of being human. And that's all it is. That really
exactly.
is all it is.
Yeah. So, as an ally, what does it mean to be a part of this community? I've had experiences where, as a part of the LGBTQIA community, we are also welcoming to the allies that actually support us in the whole thing that we are. Like, the whole fight for acceptance, the whole fight for belonging, and what does it mean to be an ally for you? Like, what does it how do you represent being an ally, and what does it mean to be an ally for the community?
You know when you know when people say, like, you know exactly who these people are, but when they say, "Oh, I'm not homophobic, I have gay friends,"
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. Because if you have gay friends, if you do have LGBT friends, then you wouldn't be homophobic by nature. So there shouldn't even be a question. And that's what an ally is. There isn't a question about who a person is because they're just another person.
yeah,
It's not about having a gay friend, it's about having a friend. You're
exactly.
my friend, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's
You,
again, it's really absurd that people have to specify, like, oh, he's that kind of person, oh, she's that kind of person. No, they're just people. They're just people.
yeah, they're just friends. They're not, you don't really have to put them in a box and say, oh, I have a gay friend, or oh, I have a gay best friend. You can just say, I have a best friend, and
Right, right.
that's the whole thing. And so, as
Exactly.
being an ally, what are some struggles you've seen people of the community face? Like, what are the struggles that you've seen them face, and how were you able to at least help some of them in your allyship as a part, as an ally for this community?
I think a very important thing that people should start with is educating themselves on the struggles and educating themselves on the variations, the varied expressions of sexuality and gender. And I'm volunteering for the Ateneo Gender Hub. They have a gender hub over in Ateneo that
Oh
deals
wow,
with
yeah.
not only people who have been harassed, but also people who of all genders, of the entire spectrum of all genders, of all sexualities. It's meant to be a safe space, and I want to be that safe space for other people, and that's how. But you know, it's still very difficult because you really have to educate others. And I had this thing before that I didn't understand, that I was very misinformed about,
Mm-hmm.
and now I do understand it. But back then, I was confused because there are so many sexualities now. I mean,
Yeah, the
you've got
umbrella keeps growing.
polysexual, you've got, it keeps growing,
Yeah,
sapiosexual, demisexual, which I think just should just be just sexual. I mean, it's
I think
what's
it should just be
demisexual? You
pansexual or something, because pansexual was like
or whatever it
you're,
is.
yeah, mostly about the person, and yeah, there's a
Yeah, but
lot
like,
of things that
okay, so
you get yourself in.
right. So I was questioning about bakit, like, why are there so many names and terms and very different flags? I mean, the flag.
Guys, sorry we got cut. So we are going to talk about where we left off. So Carl, you were saying something about the spectrum being a lot of other things already. So tell me more about that.
Right. So there are so many variations of sexuality,
Yeah,
and I didn't understand this at first. I thought, that doesn't make sense. You already have the variations in the first four letters. In the first
actually, yeah.
four letters, you already have the variations. But I did this workshop with Wagi,
Mm-hmm.
the women's center from Miriam. They gave us a talk, a workshop, a gender workshop, and I asked the question, why are there so many sexualities? Why are there so many uh, communities? And they told me, you know what? Sometimes people are talking about their sexualities for the first time, and it's good to have a way to be able to label that. Like, what is it to label your experience? Like, if you don't find the experience labeled in the first few letters, then you're gonna need another letter for that. So
Yeah.
that's why we have all these subgroups, all these subcultures and all these flags to better represent, and to make it clear that we're here, that we're present, we're not invisible. Like, I actually ordered a bisexual flag,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering. I love it. It's very beautiful. It's very simple. It's very easy to look at. And I was wondering why they needed another flag. I mean, you already have the
The
colorful
rainbow
rainbow
flag
flag,
that
but
encompasses the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
community, exactly.
It's
But
supposed to, because it's a rainbow. It's the different colors are supposed to
yeah,
represent the different communities. But the reason why there is a bisexual flag is because there is a lot of bisexual invisibility, and I want to talk about that. The bisexual invisibility, that people don't consider bisexuals as actual parts of the
yeah,
community because they think that they're just closeted or
yeah.
afraid of
Well,
admitting their actual sexuality.
yeah, well, but for me to go back to a few points that we talked about, I really appreciated what you share about the experience you had with Wagi. It was a nice rhetoric to explain why we all have this spectrum and why we all keep adding letters to this community. This community is a
Yeah,
diverse set of people coming from different places of the world, and also just coming out and like putting themselves out there for like one of the first times that you told me, like, and they want to have a representation of themselves. And it was beautiful that you help us to educate people listening in our podcast right now, is that you know the reason for those letters and reason for these representation is actually the desire for people to be seen as people with their own label. I mean, I guess it's inherent to people like us humans who want to like categorize everything. There's always a label, there's nomenclature of a lot of things. We have that tendency to actually label and categorize a lot of things, coming from like the species, kingdoms, and whatever of animalia. There's so many things, right? So that in itself was a wonderful thing that our listeners should like take note of, why we have, or why people keep adding these letter to the spectrum. You know, I mean, it's a good thing that there's an umbrella term for it. There's a good thing that's a rainbow flag that connects all of these diverse group of people into one. But I think people should know that it's really a lot of other complex things that makes us human, and it's not just a single
Right.
definition of it. And being gay or being part of the LGBTQIA community or the whole spectrum itself is way different than you defining yourself as a person. It's just a part of thing that defines you. So yeah, and moving on to the bisexual invisibility, I've often hear that, and I've often like heard that, I mean, and I've often like seen that happen. And to be fair, a lot of like the bisexual people in the community has getting the flack of like, oh, they're probably in the closet and they don't really want to come out yet, or like this is the easier way because they got the best of both
Yeah.
worlds. You know,
Oh man.
they pass through that route because it's somehow acceptable. You know, so tell me about it. How do you want to shed light on an issue of bisexual invisibility?
You know, that's ironic that you said that. That bisexuals are claim that they're bisexuals so that they can avoid the struggles of being gay, and that in itself, I think, is already a struggle because they're not being seen as people who they are, who they already are. That's the
Yeah.
struggle. The struggle is that people don't think that they're real, that they're just
Mm.
avoiding. So there's an accusation of internalized homophobia, that you're afraid of your own homosexuality, which is, I'm not sure. I don't know if, like, okay, how would you if someone said that they were gay, I would believe them. If someone said that they were bisexual, I would believe them because they said so, because that's
Yeah.
what they said so, because that's their experience, that's their lived experience. And who am I to say different? And
Yeah.
here's the thing is that it is true that uh, for a lot of people, being bisexual, with quotation marks, being
Yeah.
bisexual
Being bi.
is, yeah, is can sometimes be used as a safety net because they are genuinely afraid of um, society's hatred towards, or hatred towards people who don't conform to a certain,
Yeah.
certain
The spectrum, the
kind. I don't.
binary spectrum that
It,
they you get used to. Yeah.
it really buzzes me, man. It
Yeah.
really buzzes me that kind of that kind of thinking that you're wrong because you're not this way. You're wrong because you're not like me. That doesn't make any sense. It's absurd.
It is.
And so that's something about being bisexual. It's not about, but being bisexual is not being like formless. It's not about being formless. It's not about being, in a bad way, sexually loose, because
Yeah.
people associate being bisexual to being sexually loose,
Yeah.
and for lack of a better term, um, a nymphomaniac, kind of a lying, conniving, cheating nymphomaniac who just
Mm.
wants everything for themselves. And that's such a bad stereotype. That's such a disgusting, bad stereotype. But because people don't want to see them as people who just genuinely have no problem liking other people.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It really is just, okay, you know what? I like you, and you happen to be a certain way. Does that make sense? Like, I
Exactly. Yeah.
like you, but you happen to be born a certain way. That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, a lot of, well, you know, what I've noticed now is that a lot of people have been trying to define bisexuality more, especially on TikTok. I've been on TikTok and people have been like talking about bisexuality. People, the things that bisexual people get asked about are like, so are you partly gay, 50% gay or 50% straight? And then the answer would be like 100% bisexual. You know, and then that's a good education. Like that's a good way to like educate people of being what being a bisexual means. So with that, like I really admire your like your courage to like fight for this visibility for the bisexual community and also like the whole LGBTQIA, because you've understood a struggle that we, the community, have faced almost every day of our lives. So yeah, to like, to cap it all off, would you have any message for our LGBTQIA listeners out there?
Let me think. I had this thing that I would want, if I do have a message, it would be something that I would want to also hear. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, it would
yeah.
also be something that I want to know also. Like I want to feel and understand. So my message would be this. My message is, there is a place for you. There is always a place for everyone. And if it isn't where you are right now, it's okay. That doesn't mean this place does not exist. Find your home, find your house, because you are welcome somewhere. You are always welcome. So
Oh,
that's the message.
that's a wonderful message. Yes, you are welcome somewhere, and probably this is a place where you could be welcome to. Take a listen, take a whatever you want. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carl. Yeah, that's it.